Dan, let's start with you. What stands out for you? A huge moment, a new chapter for the Middle East.
Well, it certainly would be if Hamas plays along. There's a reason why they refuse to answer questions at the end, because they don't have an answer to the most obvious but also quite difficult question, which is, what does any of this mean if Hamas says no? My reading of it is that this means Israel has absolute carte blanche to obliterate the rest of Gaza if Hamas says no. It's going to be unbelievably ugly. Trump basically gave Israel permission, which is what is needed, to do whatever they have to do to achieve the same ends, which are the elimination of Hamas as a military and governing force, if Hamas says no. I have to think that the involvement of Qatar at this level on this day and the clear mobilization of the entire Arab world, it gives it a chance. This isn't just another case of Israel and America agreeing on an Israeli-American plan only to inevitably see Hamas say no. It kind of looks like it has more momentum than that, but it will mean very little except for the continuation of the war unless Hamas indeed says yes. They didn't set a time frame. So the next couple of days, I have to imagine, are going to be incredibly important. And right now, much depends on the degree to which Qatar can force the hand of Hamas. There will be probably some version of a split in Hamas. There will undoubtedly be people who want to fight on. That may be the leadership in Gaza more than the ones in Qatar, who stand to be expelled if this doesn't work, probably. And that's where we stand. It is certainly tempting to declare that this is momentous and historic, because if indeed it works out, then Israel's aims are all achieved. And I would add, it's not just good for the Israeli people, it's also good for the people of Gaza and for the Palestinians. It recreates for them a diplomatic pathway to some better future, maybe even some version of statehood. It ends the war that has been cataclysmic for them, and it frees them of Hamas. It's even good for the wider Arab region, because it establishes the principle that you cannot have these jihadi militias getting in the way of the aspirations of most people to a decent life. So this is a remarkable moment where I think all people of decency in the world have to hope and pray that the plan presented by Trump and Netanyahu, who are far from consensual figures in the world, actually comes to fruition. It would be a great thing for almost everyone in the Middle East and the wider world.
And on acceptance of the deal, it would see the hostages all coming back within a time frame of 72 hours. And that is what the Israeli nation has been waiting to hear. Also talk of what President Donald Trump spoke of as an eternal peace for the Middle East. That is wide-ranging indeed. You're the senior Middle East correspondent. Break down what that means for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of what was said here, and the plan really coincides with what we've been discussing for the past couple of hours here, that it goes with the war goals of Israel, but it does open up new avenues. For example, when Prime Minister, up until now for the past 2 years, minus a week, Prime Minister Netanyahu has been saying, no Abbas, no Hamas. Now it's no Hamas, no Abbas.
Until.
Yeah. Exactly. And there will be no withdrawal of Israeli forces from the Gaza Strip until the demilitarization is taking place. Now, this deal does detail pretty well for an initial framework the various mechanisms and the stages, but when it describes here that only once this international how was it called? The International Stabilization Force. That is this international force in Gaza. Only once it fully dismantles all terror infrastructure, including the tunnels, decommissions all weapons and weapons manufacturing facilities, only then will the IDF hand over control to them. So we're talking about a very gradual and extended period of ongoing Israeli military presence inside the Gaza Strip. And Israel has proven that it is willing to enforce its red lines in Lebanon. It is proving it in Syria. And now the test will be obviously with Gaza and Iran, two very open question marks. But this really is an indication as to the new defense doctrine of Israel in this new reality and it is one that prevents the constant evolution and empowerment of these various terror elements across its borders, while Israel waits aside on the sidelines and hopes that the international community will get involved. No more. Israel is taking responsibility for its security, and it is enforcing it.
I do see differences, and I would hope for better things than a Lebanon model. It's been a year since the ceasefire in Lebanon, almost a year. And Hezbollah has not yet been disarmed. And moreover, the ceasefire did not stipulate that they would be disarmed. It was a goal, but it wasn't a commitment.
But the government committed to do it now.
But the government doesn't necessarily have power. In this case, even though Israel for sure would retain the right to go after Hamas if Hamas doesn't disarm, that's not the goal. I don't see that as a security doctrine. The goal is to get Hamas to disarm and be gone. And that is different and from the Lebanon scenario, and better than the Lebanon scenario. Within the framework of what has been agreed to by Israel and Trump, that exists. If Hamas says no, then we're looking at a variety of options, including possibly the doctrine that you're talking about. But I think the hope is that Hamas indeed, that a way is found to make Hamas disarm. To me, that is the only acceptable outcome of this war.
Dan Perry, much mention was made of the Abraham Accords, also the Avraham Accords, also another pronunciation. I think news anchors the world over will be learning how to choose the correct pronunciation. Either way, we all know it well in this region, the normalization deals between Israel and the UAE and Bahrain to start, and obviously many questions about what could be down the line. Your thoughts, given what we heard today?
This will be somewhat politically difficult for Netanyahu for his coalition to survive. As I said earlier on in the show, I think they're going to collapse anyway in coming months regardless, so maybe that becomes a lesser issue. But the suggestion throughout these statements by Netanyahu and Trump has been that as part of the equation, maybe as a sweetener to Israel, other deals are in the offing, and specifically, there was a mention of this being even beyond the Middle East. So who knows what we're talking about? Maybe Pakistan, maybe Malaysia and Indonesia. Theoretically, Israel can come out of this cataclysmic war in a significantly improved strategic position.
Dan Perry, Ariel Osaran, thank you so much for being with us for this special coverage.